Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you had an amazing holiday season and a happy new year, and you are feeling energized and excited for the start of the new year. I know I am, and just this morning at the time I'm recording this, I had a fantastic session with my team to kick off the year, to align us all on our guiding principles and our vision, and to reset everyone into what we're doing and why we are doing it this year. And so for today's episode, I want to take you behind the scenes and share a little bit of what that looks like. And I want to give you a tool that you can use with your team and also with yourself to make sure that as you look ahead to this year, you have the right people doing the right things. And if you don't, or if there's any misalignments, you have a really simple way to gain clarity into that, which will help you with any hiring that you're going to be doing throughout the year. And so today we met and we have had our plan for the year for a while. I do my strategic planning pretty early as I'm looking ahead. But that being said, after the holidays, after people take a break, they're checked out a little bit, they're visiting with family and friends, they are doing a different routine. I find it is always good at the start of a new year to reset everybody on what you're doing. So while it was not a planning session, it was a roadmap session. It was a visioning session. It was a session to just gain that realignment and that re-energizing of the team around where we're taking Strategic Ops Institute and Lean Out Method this year, what we're all focused on, why we are trying to do what we're doing, the type of impact that we're trying to make, and the type of change we're trying to bring about for operations so that businesses can successfully and sustainably scale. And so we spent 2 hours together this morning in one session, and then we're going to meet again next week. And we're going to spend another 2 hours and we're going to workshop on a couple things. And then we're going to meet again the next week and spend 2 hours and workshop on a couple things. And so I really love breaking it up into these little bite-sized pieces and just really having that level set at the start of the year again to re-anchor everyone in why their role is so important, why they're so critical to the success and scale of the business, and most importantly, why we do what we do. And I think if you have not done that, if you find that you're all of a sudden right off to the races and you're moving really quickly and you're trying to get a million things done, take a pause with your team or take a pause even with yourself and just do that quick check-in to get really clear again on what this year is all about in the business. Beyond the revenue, beyond all of that stuff, why are you doing what you're doing? What is that fuel behind you and underneath you? And what is that for your team? And just create the space to have a session or two and level set everybody on that. I think that will be such a great way to start the year, to set yourself up and set those who are supporting you up for success. Now, with that being said, I want to share with you the tool that I think will really help you with your team this year and will help you with hiring this year. And I'm going to tell you how we use this and how we talked about it in today's session. So when I kicked things off, the very first thing I did was to remind everybody of our theme for the year. Some people call it a word of the year. I call it more of a theme because it's not just like a fun little cute thing we're doing for social media. This is literally the thing that we are running decisions throughout the year to say, is it in support of this theme? And then as an extension of the theme, we have guiding principles. So great. We know that thematically, this is what we're trying to do this year. Well, how do we do that from a guiding principle perspective? What must be true? How do we need to operate as a business and as a team? And how do we need to show up in order for that to be true and in order to realize the vision that we've set? So that's how we started. And then we got into the vision. And when I talk about vision, which if you do not have clarity on your vision, I have a few different podcast episodes, one in particular that will be linked in the show notes that goes through in detail the questions that you can reflect on to make sure that you have a really clear vision. But I always look at three different facets. I look at the business facet, I look at the client customer facet, and then I look at myself personally as the founder of the business facet, because the founder level of involvement in the business changes how the business operates pretty significantly, right? If you're in a place where you're trying to remove yourself from day-to-day operations or minimize that, the business needs to run differently and needs to be set up differently. If you are in a place where you are re-injecting yourself into the business and you are more involved in the business, which that is a period for me with Strategic Ops Institute, because it's my thought leadership content that we are creating and launching and leading all the certification and licensing around. So I'm actually more involved in my businesses than I would have been otherwise, just in a slightly different capacity. So it's re-looking at my role, what's important for me from a vision perspective, and then how that impacts the business and ultimately the team, which is part of the business vision. So we go through all those things, the theme, the guiding principles, the vision. Then we look specifically at, and as a reminder, here's the goals and the things that we're trying to be achieving across the year. Now, in none of that were we talking about the specifics of what we're going to go do tomorrow. We've got our regular planning cadences and team meetings for that. But this kind of level set us. So I'll give you a high level of what we talked about for my business for this year, and then how we took this from a team perspective and the activity that my team is currently doing that I recommend you do with yours as well. And so the theme for the year is integration. I always pick a phrase. I never pick a word. This is the first time I've had a single word in so long. But the reason for that is what I find is when we are trying to do too many things, or when we're running 1,000,000 miles a minute, which there was a lot of that last year. I know I've shared a little bit on the podcast how we kind of said yes to a few too many things, got a little too happy about a few too many opportunities, and we actually overcommitted ourselves. And that was largely me that did that. And yes, I understand the irony in that that is exactly what I hope people to not do. On the plus side, I quickly recognized what I was doing and reset and re-level set everything. But that is why it was so important to me that this year's theme be integration, because we need, as a business, the space to be able to fully integrate everything we're learning, everything we're doing, how we're doing things, because we are building the whole new division of Lean Out Method, which is Strategic Ops Institute out, because we are going through the certification and licensing programs under that business entity for the first time. And we've got beta clients in there who are giving us active feedback. We need time and space to be able to integrate all of that to make the programs and make what we are doing the absolute best in the world. And that is what I want. I want to do few things extraordinarily well. And the only way to do few things extraordinarily well is have the space to actually integrate it all, to create systems, to optimize, to hear feedback or hear recommendations and be able to go and take action on them instead of sticking them on some list that you never get to. And so for us, it's integration. It's very much that few things better, and having the space to be able to actively put into place and integrate into the business and into how we work and what we do, the things that we are learning as we're moving forward. So that was the theme. And then the guiding principles that support that is extraordinary excellence. So important that we do what we do extremely well and that we have exceptional quality. And so we went into a lot of this. We want to create an elite client experience. I was apparently on an E roll when I came up with these: extraordinary excellence, exceptional quality, elite client experience. There's a whole lot of E's in there. Then I break the E trend and we go into being the business that we want to be at our next level. So again, what got us here isn't going to get us there. Where are we going, and how do we embody that business in our behaviors and our thinking and our decisioning today? Things being the right fit or being no fit, that's clients, that's team members, that's things that we do and things we commit to, opportunities we say yes to. That's laser focus. This is that doing less things way, way better, as best as we possibly can. And one of ours that is always a guiding principle is walk the walk. Because I share my methods, my approaches, my things with people, to me, if we are not leveraging them ourselves, if we are not the ones that people are looking to want to model what we're doing, then I have no business selling that to somebody else. I never want to be the person that's like, do this because I told you you should do it, but I'm not going to do it, right? To me, we need to be doing the things I am teaching and training and mentoring other people to be doing. So those are our guiding principles for the year. Well, if you think about all of that, sure, that sounds great. That's wonderful. But how do we do all that? Like, how can somebody on my team show up and be set up for success to be able to do exceptional quality and to be able to have excellence and to be able to have focus and to be able to model the way for someone else? Well, if you think about all of that, they need a few things. They need crystal clarity in what they need to be doing and what success looks like. They can't do something with excellence if they have no idea what excellence looks like, right? So they need that clarity from me or from my right-hand woman, Jess, right? Or somehow from the systems or the communications or the things that we do with them. They need to know what excellence looks like, to have the space to integrate, which is our theme of the year, right? And so all of these different things, and they also, this is a big one, need to be aligned to the right things. Now, we know in a small business, people wear a lot of different hats. As part of wearing a lot of different hats, we don't all get to play in our zone of genius 100% of the time. Nobody's ever truly in their zone of genius 100% of the time. But how far off of that are you? How far off of that are the members of your team, right? If you have somebody owning something that is barely even a level of competence for them, right? And you are expecting them to do it with excellence, those two things don't align. Those things, two things don't match. So what we talked about as a team is, how do we take a really close look at all of the things that we're each doing, myself included, I'm doing this too. Every single person who's on the team is doing it, no exceptions. And we're looking at what we're doing and we are rating and getting clear on which of these are things that we really love, that we feel are aligned with our strengths, our zone of genius, whatever kind of label you want to put on it. But those things that we could do all day long, they don't really feel like work. We feel like we are exceptionally great at them and we want to continue to do those, right? Amazing. Ideally, we want to fill our calendars with as many of those things. What are the things that we're doing? Because we know it needs to be done. We know there's nobody else to do it. So we're gonna take one for the team for right now, but we want to recognize that we are doing something outside of what we enjoy or what we're really skilled at. And that as a business, we need to be looking at a plan for how we can staff somebody for that is their zone of genius. So we're all going through and doing this activity. And so what I want to share with you now are the questions and the things that we're actually answering and looking at, because it's great to go into a year with that excitement, to have a vision, to have goals, to have maybe guiding principles or values or whatever you want to call them, right? To have all these things. But do you have the ecosystem in place that makes those things possible? And so that's what we are looking at really closely as a team, saying, yeah, we want all these things. Of course, we want all these things. Everybody wants these things. But realistically, where is what we're currently doing going to maybe get in the way of that being possible? And what can we do with intention instead of being reactive later after the fact? How can we proactively look at this and start ourselves up for success, or at least be positioned to be able to address these things when we do scale out the newer business? So here's what you would do. And I call this is one of the templates and tools that I teach people inside the work I do with them around Lean Dream Team. I call it the right fit responsibilities evaluation. And this is something that I recommend people do minimally once a year, but you could even have people do it more often, especially if you have someone new on a team. I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I bring someone new on, they tend to do a lot of different things because we're trying to figure out what the right fit thing is for them if I didn't hire them for something that was super specialist focused, right? And so this is everyone who works with you, employee or contractor. Obviously, you're probably not going to have an agency or someone that you've hired do this. But aside from that, anyone who you would consider a core part of your team would do this. And you would have them list out all of their core responsibilities, everything they currently do. Hopefully you already have this defined in your business. I know we do. But if you don't, this is also a great way to get those things defined or to kind of do a check and balance and see if maybe the things that your team has done have expanded or grown or shifted since the last time that you've defined that. So have each individual define all of the different things that they do. And this isn't more of a macro level. It's not at the micro level, but have them define what it is. And then what you want them to do is you want them to color code those things. So I have this in a Google Doc, and it's just they have a line, and on the line, they have the responsibility. Next to it is the comment, and all they do is use the highlighter, and they highlight every single line with one of 4 colors. So green is, I'm doing this today. It's great. I want to continue to do it. It aligns with my zone of genius. Like this one is meant for me. I'm keeping it. Right. So that's great. In an ideal world, you want to see a whole lot of greens on somebody's sheet. Doesn't always work out that way. But you do want to see mostly greens. It's their strengths. It's their superpower. It's stuff they're doing today. It's stuff they love to do today. Amazing. Yellows. All right. I'm doing it today. I'm okay to continue doing it. It's not really something I love. Like I'm good at it. It's probably my zone of excellence as opposed to my zone of genius, but it could be delegated to someone else in the future. Somebody else could own this. And I wouldn't mind if somebody owned it because that would give me more space to do things in my zone of genius. Like I'm cool to keep it for now. It's not the first thing you're going to take off somebody's plate, but if the opportunity arises, they wouldn't mind giving that to somebody else so they have more time to do the things that they absolutely love. So that's your yellow. Next is your orange. Some people might do red. I don't usually use reds. Red feels kind of like, hey, we're in trouble here. So I use orange instead. And orange is, I'm doing it today, but I would really, really love for somebody else to do this. It is not something that I find personally fulfilling, and it's not something that aligns with even my zone of excellence. Like, I can do it. I will do it. I'm not going to do it great. I'll get it done. But as quickly as possible, please, can somebody take this off my plate? Right? I'll give an example is I have hired people before in certain type of roles like tech VA roles. And a lot of times people will advertise as you're, talking to them and going through the interview process that they do social media. They love social media. Well, what I found is most people who are really strong on the technical or operational side do not typically love social media. Yes, they will do social media because they probably had to do social media in the past, but they don't love to do social media. It's usually something that falls into the orange category really quickly. And people who are on more of the social media or the very creative side of the house will do your tech and your operations. And again, when you're interviewing them, they'll tell you that they do it all. And it's great. And then when you get in, you realize that they actually gravitate much more so to the creative side, more like the marketing or the graphic side. And you want to take those operational and tech type things that are on their orange and move them to someone else. So there are unicorns that are good at both. I'm one of those weird unicorns who loves both sides of things, but there aren't that many people who are equally as skilled at both. And so usually you'll find people gravitate towards one or the other, and that's where you'll start to see some oranges. Other places you'll start to see oranges is maybe you lost a team member, somebody quit, or you had to let somebody go for whatever reason. And so the team kind of just divides and conquers the work that they had as a stopgap. Well, sometimes those things kind of become long-term when it wasn't intended to be long-term. So you've got people who are, putting in their best effort and doing what needs to be done because it needs to be done. But at the end of the day, it's not doing you, them, or anybody any favors by having them keep it. So that's usually where you start to see oranges show up on things. And if you did have someone leave and you just distributed work, expect you're going to see a bunch of oranges. But over time, if you do this regularly, you should see very few oranges. So your opportunity ends up being the yellows so that you're continuing to just align people more and more to their zone of genius and not even have them spending time in their zone of excellence. Now, the fourth category, this is one that's really interesting, and this is where advancement opportunities come into play. This is where people get really excited. So far, we have just looked at what they're currently doing, but blue is where they get to add to the list things that they're not doing today or they don't get to do very often today, but that they really want to do. Things that align to their zone of genius or their strengths or that they're really interested in exploring. And so frequently people will kind of dump their current to-dos and you'll get your green, your yellow, and your orange. And then I ask people to add in, what don't you do today that you wish you could start doing? Or what do you do so infrequently today that you forgot to even put it on the list, but you would love to do it, and put those in blue. And so in the end, what they get is a really clear picture of their work. And sometimes it's actually pretty encouraging for a team member. They look at their list and they're like, I don't have any oranges. I actually do most of what aligns to my strengths. There's a few things that, I'm okay at, I'm good enough at, great, but if somebody could take it, I'd be happy enough with it. But actually, my job's pretty awesome, right? And sometimes you will have people have that reaction. Other times, if you find that, you really want to keep someone and you feel like they're seeming a little antsy and like they want to go, or maybe somebody that used to be a good performer has kind of lost their luster a little bit. Usually what you'll find is there's a lot of things that have moved into the yellow or orange category, or there's not enough blue, there's not enough new opportunity for them. And so it's getting so routine and so mundane that they've kind of lost their excitement about the role. So this just ends up being such a valuable tool for the person and also for you. And it gives you your insight in where you want to hire next, because you're going to be able to see those oranges. You want to get those oranges off people's plate as quickly as possible. And then the next place you want to look is yellow. So a lot of times I'll be working with business owners. We're looking at their strategic hiring plan. We're talking about what they need. And they just stare kind of blankly like, we have so much to do. There's so much. I know I need support and I don't even know what I need. And when you do this kind of activity, it gives you that clarity and you could see right into the future exactly where you have gaps that you can fill. Then there's the other side of hiring, of course, where you have more opportunity, or where you needed one person to do something. All of a sudden, you've had enough growth that you need 2 or 3 people to do that same thing, right? And so there's different reasons for hiring, but this certainly helps you with gaining clarity in who your upcoming hires are or what sorts of skills and things that you're going to want them to be doing. So this is something we're in the middle of right now. We do it every single year. I love doing it at the start of the year because start of the year is that new energy. Everyone's like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and like, let's go and take on the new year. It's going to be the best year ever, right? We all say that same thing. And then we get into the year 3 months in and we're like, when is the next year going to get here? But it's like a good time from a mindset perspective for people to be thinking about, what do I really want? And what is it? You've got the holiday period behind you, so people aren't quite as burnt and crispy. Usually people are a little fresher and able to look at the things they do more objectively. Whereas if you do this right at the end of the year after a super busy Q4, you're going to find a whole lot of things in orange and yellow that aren't really orange and yellow. So I find the new year is a good fresh time for people to take a look at this and for you to kind of reconfirm what you think you need from a hiring plan and to be able to support your team, right? Sometimes things that are yellows, things that are more zone of excellence instead of zone of genius, they actually might just need a little training. They might need a little bit of support. There might be 5% of what they're doing that you could take off their plate and give to someone else that all of a sudden turns it into something that is much more of a superpower for them and much more aligned with zone of genius. So it can be minor things that could help you look at how you can best support your team, or sometimes where you need to make changes. But either way, it gives you that insight. It sets you up for the year. And this is especially valuable to do coupled with looking at your theme of the year and your guiding principles and your vision, and just making sure everyone has that clarity and direction and that alignment in what they're doing and how they're behaving and how they're showing up for the business and for the clients in order to get you there. So a little insight into what we're doing here at Strategic Ops Institute and Lean Out Method. Hope that you found this valuable and it's something that you can take and share in your business. I do have a special request for you this year. One of my personal goals for the year and business goals for the year is to really get this podcast in the hands of so many more businesses that are trying to scale and really need support to be able to do it in a much more simple and much more sustainable way so they can avoid burning out and they can actually grow a high profit, high impact business that they love instead of one that is draining the life out of them. So with that being said, if you have not yet left a review for the show, I would love if you would take a moment and do so. If you don't have the time to write something, just hit the 5 stars. I hope it's 5 stars and hit submit. And that would be fantastic. But my real ask is if you could just share this with someone that you think would appreciate it and would get a lot of value out of the things that I share each week, I would be super grateful and absolutely love that support. So thank you. And I hope you are off to a fantastic start in the new year. I will see you again next week.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have not yet taken our scalability assessment, I invite you to head to leanoutmethod.com/assessment and take our interactive assessment that's going to help you look at how simple, how sustainable, and how scalable your business currently is. It includes personalized recommendations of where to focus next to get your time back, to increase your impact, increase your profits, and ultimately step into your rich, fulfilled life. And finally, we'd love to see you inside our signature program, Simplify to Scale. You can head to leanoutmethod.com/ops to find all of the details on how we can help you uplevel your operations and get out of the day-to-day of your business.